If you look back even just 5 years ago, the whole idea of working remotely, maybe from a beach somewhere in Southeast Asia, it felt pretty niche, right? Like a dream for a select few.
Definitely a fringe concept for most people.
But now, wow, remote work is becoming so much more mainstream. It's moving way beyond just freelancers. It's embedding itself into corporate policies.
Yeah, it's really changing things.
And that's fundamentally reshaping global travel patterns in ways we just haven't seen before.
Absolutely.
So today, we're diving into some really interesting source material. It lays out exactly where the world's digital nomads might be heading next. And maybe more importantly, why governments in places like Southeast Asia are, well, basically rolling out the red carpet for them for long-term stays.
Right. Dedicated red carpets. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, this is our deep dive into how the Philippines and really the wider Southeast Asian region are aggressively positioning themselves, trying to become the world's next big hub for long-term travelers, for digital nomads. So our mission today is to unpack all of this, these new visa initiatives, the intense regional competition heating up, and the big economic drivers behind this massive policy shift.
Yeah.
We want to tailor these insights for you, the person who needs to understand what this means for the whole global travel ecosystem, whether you're maybe planning a long trip yourself or just watching how the global economy is shifting.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, and I think it's really vital to frame this whole policy shift correctly from the start.
Go on.
This isn't just, another tourism campaign. The sources suggest this is more like economic statecraft.
Statecraft. Interesting.
Right. This big government push seems driven by a really strong desire to diversify their tourism economies, and crucially, to redefine the region's role in global professional travel.
So moving beyond just holidays.
Exactly. This isn't just about attracting tourists for a week or two. It's about attracting these skilled, often high-spending individuals who plan to stay for months, maybe longer. They're seeking economic stability through these long-term travelers. And the main tool for this, the core mechanism enabling this huge change, is obviously the digital nomad visa, right? Or some similar kind of long stay pass.
That's the key instrument, yes.
And this got really concrete for the Philippines back in April. The government issued an executive order specifically to develop its own pretty robust program. And that move immediately positioned the archipelago as a serious competitive choice in the region.
Right out of the gate, yeah.
But the thing that really jumped out, looking at the timing and the why behind it, here's an insight I found really interesting in the material.
Okay.
The focus seems to be explicitly moving away from relying too heavily on those traditional, sometimes volatile tourist markets.
Okay. Diversification in action.
Exactly. The source material points to a very targeted push for diversification, specifically moving away from what was previously a really deep reliance on the Chinese mass tourism market.
And that is such a key strategic point. You have to ask, why would a country deliberately diversify away from what was, historically a massive market for them?
Right. Seems counterintuitive at first glance.
Well, because that kind of reliance creates vulnerability. The sources detail how sudden market shifts, maybe political things like trade tensions or health crises like post-pandemic travel rules.
Yeah, like we saw.
Exactly. Those things can just cripple a tourism economy that's too centralized almost overnight. So by attracting digital nomads, who usually have their own independent sources of foreign income and critically need long-term places to stay, they mitigate that risk. It smooths out the peaks and troughs.
And the vision laid out by their tourism secretary, Cristina Garcia Frasco, seems to confirm this directly.
It does. The goals articulated are very specific. They want travelers who value sustainability, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Travelers who tend to spend more locally than your average short-term tourist. And statistically, travelers who are just more likely to become repeat visitors, precisely because they set up a temporary base, a temporary life there.
So prioritizing the value of the visitor, not just the sheer number of visitors.
Precisely. Value over volume. That's the shift.
Okay, so what's fascinating here, as you mentioned, is that the Philippines isn't doing this in a vacuum.
Not at all.
While they're busy refining their specific program, it feels like the whole region is kind of moving in lockstep. Or maybe more accurately, in pretty intense competition.
Intense competition is probably the better description, yeah.
We're seeing neighbors like Thailand unveiling or expanding similar programs. Thailand just recently introduced that ambitious 10-year long-term resident, the LTR visa.
Quite comprehensive.
Indonesia has its second home visa options, and we're seeing similar moves, maybe less developed, but still there, in Malaysia, Japan, South Korea too. It's happening everywhere.
Right.
So is this actually coordinated? Like, are they talking to each other, or is it just a reactive kind of geographical bidding war for the same pool of global talent?
Well, that's the question. It certainly looks like a bidding war.
Because they are all chasing the same remote professionals, aren't they?
They absolutely are. It's a trend that definitely fuels competition, which, ultimately tends to benefit the traveler, the nomad.
Sure.
But I think it's also a broader regional acknowledgement that the profile of the international traveler has fundamentally changed. Post-pandemic, remote work capability, it's just different now.
Okay.
And this collective action, whether truly coordinated or just competitive parallelism, it is accelerating the process of turning Southeast Asia into a premier global hub for this demographic.
Right.
The sources really point out that this density of options is key. Having Manila, Bangkok, Bali all competing for your attention, all within a relatively short flight radius.
Yeah, that's a strong point.
That creates an unparalleled ecosystem for remote professionals. The choice, the variety, and hopefully the quality of amenities just increases dramatically because of that competition.
Okay, so that regional density, that competition, it's clearly fierce. Let's pivot then. What, according to the sources we looked at, makes the Philippines stand out, particularly in this crowded market against, established players like Thailand or Indonesia?
Good question. There are a few key advantages highlighted.
The first one that seems obvious, maybe the lowest barrier for many international arrivals, is communication.
Yes.
The widespread English proficiency across the Philippines. That's huge, right?
It's a massive advantage. And it's not just about, ordering food or getting directions.
No.
It significantly eases all the administrative stuff, the social integration hurdles. Think about setting up a temporary life, dealing with rental contracts, maybe finding serviced office space, navigating bureaucracy. English fluency just smooths all that out.
Definitely reduces friction. And then coupled with that ease of communication, there's the affordability factor.
Always crucial for nomads maximizing foreign income, yeah.
Well, maybe major cities like Manila are becoming comparable to other big Asian hubs in cost.
Certain districts, yes.
The sources really highlight that cost-effective living is still very possible, especially in secondary cities or those idyllic provincial beach towns, places like Cebu or Palawan.
Right.
The cost of living there remains significantly lower than comparable spots in Europe or North America, and often still lower than places like Jakarta or even Hanoi, perhaps.
And this affordability, combined with the type of traveler they're attracting, someone staying for months, creates an interesting accommodation challenge.
Okay, how so?
Well, digital nomads aren't looking for a standard hotel room for 3 nights. They need stable, professional, long-term living solutions.
Right, something more like a home base.
Exactly. They're looking for things like serviced apartments, maybe longer-term rentals, perhaps even a comfortable serviced office nearby, especially given the time zones many are working across.
Yeah, needing a dedicated workspace is common.
So this policy pivot towards nomads is implicitly driving investment towards these extended stay solutions. It's fundamentally changing the hospitality landscape away from just short stays towards more residential long-term options.
That makes sense. And focusing on that long-term professional traveler, it absolutely demands serious infrastructure to back it up. I mean, the marketing hook might be that blend of, cosmopolitan amenities and world-famous beaches.
The classic pitch.
Right. But if you're working a 40-hour week, you need reliable internet and maybe even consistent power more than you need a perfect sunset photo every single day.
Functionality over aesthetics, at least during work hours, yes.
And the source material does note this. It mentions proactive collaboration happening between the tourism department and the information technology department over there, specifically to ensure that the digital infrastructure tries to keep pace with these traveler demands.
Which is crucial for enhancing the appeal. They know this.
But is there any real indication that this collaboration is actually tackling the known challenges? Things like, reliable power grids, especially outside the main cities, or getting fiber connectivity out to some of those more remote, idyllic spots?
That's it.
Or is this big infrastructure push really just focused on the major business hubs like Metro Manila?
That's a very necessary point, skepticism, and the sources seem to offer a bit of a nuanced picture. It's not black and white.
Okay.
So While the focus on the major hubs, like Metro Manila and maybe Cebu, is clear they have to ensure the primary cities offer absolutely top-tier connectivity.
Table stakes, really.
Right. But the policy does explicitly talk about encouraging decentralization.
Yeah.
They were apparently focusing investment, or trying to, in secondary and tertiary cities to help nomads, well, disperse, spread out.
Okay, so it's on the agenda at least.
It seems to be. Now, does this instantly solve the power grid issue on some remote island? Probably not overnight. But it does show, at least on paper, a commitment to creating well-connected alternatives beyond just the capital. And, this competition piece is key. It connects directly back to you, the listener, the potential nomad.
How so?
Because this competition, the Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, all vying for basically the same demographic, it's driving improvements much faster than any single country might undertake on its own.
The race benefits the runner.
Exactly. Better amenities, hopefully improving visa terms, infrastructure upgrades. Remote workers are, in many ways, the direct beneficiaries of this sort of geographical arms race.
Okay, now let's transition a bit. If reliable infrastructure is kind of the price of entry for these countries, then financial stability seems to be the real economic prize thereafter. Let's move beyond just counting visitors, because this policy shift has some really deep implications for the financial health of the local economies, doesn't it?
Absolutely. By moving away from relying solely on those short-term, high-turnover tourists.
Yeah, the ones who fly in, stay a week, fly out.
Right. By diversifying towards these longer-stay individuals, these countries aim to stabilize their tourism revenues quite dramatically. Yeah. Reduce that seasonality impact.
And the financial injection from these long-term travelers, it's qualitatively different, isn't it? And higher value.
It really is. We're talking about shifting revenue streams, moving away from just transient hospitality, short hotel stays, towards fostering a genuine long-stay residential market.
Often through things like those service departments you mentioned or longer private rentals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And digital nomads tend to inject more money into local economies in a more reliable, steady way. They do this mainly through three things over extended periods.
Okay.
One, they establish a consistent long-term residential pattern, paying rent month after month.
Right. Predictable income for landlords.
Two, they tend to shift their disposable income away from maybe international chains found in tourist bubbles towards local markets, patronizing local cafes, dentists, grocery stores, tailors.
Integrating more into the local fabric.
Precisely. And three, they support the area's infrastructure utilities, local transport, etc. through their consumption and potentially local taxes over a much longer duration than a typical tourist.
So it's a much deeper, more sustained economic contribution.
Exactly. And that's crucial for countries looking for sustained economic growth that goes beyond just the peak tourist season.
Yeah, this really signals a more, thoughtful approach to tourism development.
I think so. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the source material explicitly notes a growing policy emphasis, region-wide really, on making destinations more inclusive and sustainable.
Okay, buzzwords, but what do they mean in this context?
Fair question. Here, sustainable seems to mean reducing the environmental strain that traditional mass tourism often creates, focusing on these higher-value visitors who, ideally, leave a smaller footprint per dollar spent compared to huge tour groups.
Okay, let's pressure on resources.
And inclusive seems to mean ensuring that the economic benefits of this foreign spending actually, trickle down more effectively to local communities and smaller non-international businesses rather than just being captured by large corporate hotel chains or big resort developers.
Spreading the wealth a bit more.
That seems to be the goal. This focus on value over sheer volume feels like a really critical policy differentiator for Southeast Asia as we move through the 2020s.
It's clear this has become a full-fledged economic race. The source material even uses that phrase, the race to attract digital nomads.
It definitely feels like a race.
And it just highlights how quickly the whole travel landscape is evolving right now.
It's incredibly dynamic.
But the ultimate upside for the remote worker seems pretty undeniable, right?
Oh, I think so.
They really stand to gain from this competition, constantly improving amenities, potentially better visa terms, offering genuine long-term security, and maybe even the organic creation of these vibrant global communities springing up across Southeast Asia.
Yeah, that community aspect is important too.
Nomads get to choose the best fit for them. Bangkok, Bali, Manila, maybe somewhere less known based on their professional needs, their lifestyle desires,
Yeah.
with governments literally competing to make their choice easier and more attractive.
Absolutely. And the source material is pretty clear in its forecast here.
Yeah.
This trend really looks poised to redefine the region's tourism industry for years to come. It's embedding remote work into the very fabric of their economic planning now.
Right.
So, just to synthesize the key takeaways we've discussed.
Yeah.
We're seeing these strategic new visa initiatives popping up, designed specifically for the remote professional.
Check.
We're seeing a major policy shift towards attracting high-spending long-term travelers,
Right.
primarily for economic stability and diversification.
Yep.
And we've talked about the unique advantages of the Philippines in this race, the widespread English proficiency, the deep affordability in many areas, and that commitment, at least, to rapidly improving infrastructure, making it a really strong and compelling contender.
So what does this all mean when we boil it down? This policy pivot happening right across Southeast Asia, the Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, others encouraging these long-term stays. It's fundamentally reshaping the global map for remote work.
It really is.
It's turning the entire region into essentially a preferred global residence for a whole generation of location-independent professionals. This isn't some passing trend. It feels like a dedicated long-term economic strategy fueled by that need to diversify.
Well said. And that strategic regional competition we keep coming back to. It raises a really interesting question for you, the listener, to maybe explore further as you watch this region evolve.
Okay.
Since these neighboring countries are competing so fiercely for the same pool of mobile talent, right?
Yeah.
Will this race for better visa terms, better amenities, will it eventually lead to deeper regional collaboration?
Interesting thought, like working together.
Yeah, maybe on things like unified standards for sustainability, or perhaps shared infrastructure goals to tackle common challenges, like power reliability across borders. Or will it just result in ever fiercer, more siloed competition that maybe eventually leads to market saturation or other issues?
Collaboration versus cutthroat competition.
Exactly. That dynamic tension between those two possibilities, that's the knowledge you can really take forward from this. And, if you want to connect this to related policy ideas,
Yeah.
the source material we looked at also had a brief reference about how the Philippines is also looking at attracting Gulf expats.
Okay. Another high-value group.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Which just shows the broader scope of their new strategy. It's not just nomads. It's about luring various groups of high net worth individuals who also require those stable, extended, high-quality residential solutions we talked about.
So maybe something for you to research next, how that complementary strategy fits in.
Definitely worth looking into.